What's going on, everybody? So we just wrapped up media day. There were a lot of interviews. We were able to talk to a lot of players, a lot of coaches. Mario Cristobal spoke in this video. I'm just going to recap a little bit about what I saw, but I can just promise you we're going to have tons of content on the website on InsideTheU.com, and also I got plenty of video of the interviews, so definitely stay tuned to the channel for that. So let's get right into it. Again, with Coach Cristobal, there was a lot of messaging that he said in his press conference, but basically the guys are, really been doing a great job of working and that kind of thing. He's excited to see how things go in fall practices, but he really talked a lot about just kind of the mentality, and he really likes the approach that the guys have. He didn't get too specific into some certain areas. He wasn't asked a lot about that, and you can watch the full press conference on the channel. But the big news I will say of the day, and he did talk about it, was Zion Nelson. A few weeks ago, Zion was featured in a picture with a brace. Coach said it's not a big deal, essentially said that. However, Zion was here today, again, heavy brace. It was confirmed he did have surgery. However, Coach Cristobal feels like, and other players, and they didn't feel like it was going to take him out too long in terms of specifics, but definitely stay tuned to the site on all of that. But Zion was there. He did talk to the media. But I think the big takeaway is, yes, Zion is going to be, dealing with that throughout fall camp, and we'll see when he's able to get back out on the field. But John Campbell spoke pretty passionately about he's moving to left tackle, and he's going to be the guy essentially at this point. So we'll see how that works out. But Campbell was a guy that himself he was dealing with an injury himself, but he feels like he's ready to go and ready to play and fill in this role. So we'll see how he does. Let's start with the rundown. Let's talk about quarterback. I was able to have a sit-down one-on-one with Frank Ponce, the quarterback's coach, and one of the things that he was saying about Tyler Van Dyke, and asked about, Jake Garcia and Jakari Brown as well. But just with Tyler, he said the biggest thing that I took from it was he's a student of the game. He does a great job of breaking down film and really understanding what's going on with the offense. And something Coach Ponce told me was, he knows that Tyler watches film and really pays attention to it, because there's been some things that you would only know these certain details if you actually watched a lot of film. So Coach Ponce gave him praise for that, and certainly, he noticed a lot of, obviously we talked about his arm ability and things like that, but I thought it was interesting that he talked about how well he is in terms of his being a student of the game, understanding what's going on. And we do talk about Tyler being an experienced player, but last year, it was his only year starting. He started 9 games. So he does have experience. He does have a year under his belt, but he's still growing as a player. And certainly there's still a lot more that Tyler can do, but I thought that stood out. Tyler had a lot of media members around him when he entered, and the way they had it set up was they had about 20 tables or so going at one time. Players would come and go throughout, but when Tyler showed up, there were a lot of media members there, but Tyler handled it all pretty well, and I know he did a lot of interviews in Charlotte as well with the ACC kickoff, so he's definitely excited. He talked about the receivers quite a bit in terms of who will step up, and maybe that's where I want to transition to next. So I find the wide receiver position really interesting. Frank Latson is a guy that, you heard my preview in terms of fall camp. Definitely check that out if you haven't yet. But Frank's a guy I think that can really have a really good year. And I know that it does feel like to me that not enough people are thinking he's going to have a big year, maybe because it's his first year, maybe because he dealt with some injuries at Clemson, whatever it might be. I just think he's ready to have one of these really big years. And I talked to Frank a little bit, and one of the things that we talked about was him just being an all-around receiver. And I think that's what he's going to be able to bring to this team, because he's a guy with really good speed downfield, so he can catch the deep ball. At 6'3", 205 about, he can catch the shorter routes, the medium routes as well, be one of those tough possession type guys that you need on third down. And then also, just be able to do different things in that sense. And also, because of his physicality, he knows he's got to be able to block on the perimeter. I think his blocking is going to be important as well. And when you look at the other receivers, they don't have a guy that's as complete as Frank to be able to do all of those 3 things very well with size, speed, and strength combination. So that's why one reason why I think Frank's going to have a big year, because I think he can do different things. I think it's going to be hard to take him off the field. I expect him to produce, and so he's definitely excited. He's definitely excited to be the guy or be one of the guys. He's definitely been working just to refine his game and put the kind of build on what he's done at times at Clemson. So this is year 4 for Latson. He's definitely excited to go. So another receiver I spent some time with today was Keyshawn Smith. And you know, one of the things that we talked about was his work over the summer. And Keyshawn's a guy that I think can really take his game to the next level. He's done that at Miami from year 1 to 2, and I think he can take that next jump. And one of the things that he was saying that he really worked on this summer and this offseason was becoming a better route runner. And certainly I find that to be very important for Keyshawn's game because he has such good athleticism and speed, you know, quickness, his ability to get downfield and things like that. So for him to be able to run routes at a higher clip, a more efficient level, I think is only going to help his production to get open and things like that. But that stood out to me with Keyshawn, and I know that the other guys are looking to compete as well. Ramilla Brunson says he's ready to go, ready to compete, you know, dealing with an injury from the spring, so that's good. He's put that behind him. And you know, Jacoby George was here today as well, and also seemed to be, I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but he seemed to be having a good time. And just these guys are really trying to make an impact in the passing game, and we will see. Wide receivers, certainly very interesting to see how they do in fall camp. You know, sticking with the offensive side of the ball, let's talk about running back. Don Chaney Jr. was out here. He feels like he's 100%. He feels like he'll be full go when practices get going there on Friday, so that was good to hear. Jalen Knighton, he definitely is excited to go, as well as Henry Parrish. You know, all these guys are going to be competing. They're going to be ready to go. But Trevante Citizen spoke. I was with him for a good 10 minutes, so definitely stay tuned for that. But, you know, Trevante's kind of admitted that workouts were tough when he first arrived. It was hot. They were definitely strenuous, but he definitely felt like he got through it and still working on that. And he really likes, you know, just kind of being at Miami and feels like the offense is going to be good for him, good for the running game. And the offensive line talked a lot about that as well. Like, it's been a point of emphasis. Everyone knows it, that the Miami Hurricanes need to run the ball better. Coach Gaddis is implementing that. The offensive line coach, Alex Mirabal, is certainly talking about that quite a bit as well with his group. But the offensive line, you know, they take a lot of pride in that. Jalen Rivers, you know, when we were talking, he talked about that too. You know, he knows that they feel like that they can run the ball better than they did a year ago, even though Jalen didn't play as much, you know, just got those few games at the beginning of the year. And he's excited as well to be out here. You know, Jalen said that he's actually been cross-training. We saw it at the end of spring practices. You know, he's a guard, that he's played guard since he's been at UM, but we saw him play tackle a little bit right at the end of spring ball. And he said spring was good, but it was good just to kind of get out there. But he didn't feel as confident in his knee as he would have liked, the way he feels now going into fall practices. So he said he's practicing cross-training, guard, tackle, and even center. So I think that's great because I think Jalen is one of those guys that can do all three. But I certainly expect him to slot right there at that guard spot. So the way I think that this is going to shape up for the offensive line, you know, heading into fall camp, is that Zion Nelson, John Campbell combination at left tackle. We'll see how that thing plays out, but I do think Campbell will be over there like he says. DJ Scaife looking for him at right tackle. Jalen Rivers, I do think at left guard at this point. Again, we'll see how all that shakes out in fall camp, and then Ja'Kai Clark at center. And I think that right guard spot, there's three guys there. If Campbell's slotted to a tackle spot, I think three guys you're looking at with Justice Oluwaseun, Usman Traore are two guys that'll definitely be in there, as well as Oregon transfer Logan Sagapalu. Okay, so the camera was dying, it was overheating, so I had to get to a little bit cooler of a place here, but I do want to finish this up because there was a lot to talk about today, and I was talking about the offensive line, but now let's kind of move it to the defensive side of the ball a little bit. And I was able to talk to defensive end coach Rod Wright a little bit, and I asked him about a rotation because to me, as you saw in my last video, I believe the defensive line is going to be a strength in terms of their depth, and I think they're going to be a productive group. I think you're going to be impressed with these guys. So I asked Coach Wright, you know, how many guys ideally can fit in this rotation? Do you want to rotate a bunch of guys in, whether it's D-end or just the defensive line philosophy? And it is interesting because there are a lot of guys that can play inside and out. And I think even a guy, when I was talking to Akeem Messidor, you know, he's a guy that I pegged inside. I thought he would be more of an inside guy. He said to me, he's right around 280, thinks he can get up to about 285, going to be limited a little bit heading into fall camp, but he thinks he'll be ready for the season. But he said he thinks he can play outside a little bit. So he's just an example of one of these versatile guys. And Coach Wright was saying that he thinks that they're going to have a bunch of guys that can rotate in. And really, he says he always feels like it's never enough guys on the defensive line. So one of the things he said was they want to pay attention to not burning guys out early in a season, and they want to make sure, because it is a long year, that they want to give some reps early. If they can develop guys early, that's good. once again, don't want to burn a lot of reps with a bunch of guys early in the season. So maybe look for that in these first few games, that they are going to play a lot of guys. So, and if not, they definitely want to make sure guys are still getting better and getting ready. So that was one thing that stood out to me with Coach Wright. And another thing was, look, I mentioned, look, these guys don't have a lot of sacks in their career. I asked him just simply, does he feel like that they can get sacks? Is this a pass rushing type of group? And one of the things he said immediately was, and you'll see the video, I'm going to post the full video of my conversation with Coach Wright, but what he said was they've got to stop the run. And what he meant was, if they're able to stop the run, and there are some numbers that they're interested in, he didn't tell me exactly what it was, but he said, you'll know when we're able to stop the run, or teams will go away from the run, or whatever it might be. But if you're able to stop the run, it will actually slow down the passing attack and really put teams in some really passing obvious downs. So you're talking about 3rd and long, right? Or 2nd and long, whatever it might be. But he was saying that that's the key. If they're able to stop the run and really make it seem like there's no doubt this team's getting ready to pass, you're able to unleash some guys on the quarterback. And he said, you see that a lot in the NFL because it is a passing league, and even at 2nd and long, they will throw the ball, and you'll see some sacks pile up because if you know a team is definitely going to pass, you can really set your defense to either dial up a call or send certain guys in that are good at pass rushing. So I thought that was very good, very interesting perspective on how to improve the pass rush or how to get sacks, and it's also a different philosophy than what we've heard with the previous coaching staff and how they like to go with the defense. So I'm very interested to see how it all plays out. I thought he was great in just explaining what exactly that means, and I think you guys will understand it more, not just how I'm saying it, but hearing Coach Wright have to explain all this. And again, it was a one-on-one interview I was able to get with Coach Wright, that he was able to explain this, and I thought he did a great job. But he did say, look, he does feel like they've got guys that have the skills to get pass rushing stats, such as, the tackles for losses or the sacks, which is obviously the big number there. Staying with big numbers on defense, I was able to talk to defensive backs coach Jamal Adai, and I asked him about a lot of things, but I asked him about the interceptions. Does it feel like this is a group that can get more interceptions? Because like sacks, this is a group that comes back, doesn't have a lot of numbers in terms of their interception, a lot of experience, but not a lot of guys piling up interceptions. And he said they are making a real emphasis on this, either in the off season, expects to do it again in fall camp. He believes that this is something that they really want to emphasize with this group and really get the most out of it. So really, improve their ball skills, whatever it might be, but just really understand where the ball might end up. And it's not just the cornerbacks, safeties too, just a way to get the ball, hands on the ball a little bit more, but it's certainly a point of emphasis. And he feels like that the guys will deliver during the season, but certainly fall camp, but no question. It's going to be an important time for those guys to gain confidence on when to pick off passes, maybe when to gamble a little bit if you need to, or just being in the right position or looking back up for the ball. Whatever it might be, there's ways to improve on interceptions, and all the guys, every defensive back on the roster could do a better job of that. Staying with the defensive backs, I mentioned earlier it was just great seeing a bunch of guys today, but Al Blades Jr., he certainly was one of the popular guys in terms of reporters talking. He just is really excited to be back. It's been a difficult time not being out there the way he would like, and I think he's a guy that can kind of rotate into that corner spot if they need him, but safety as well, and just kind of that versatility. And again, Coach and I talked about having versatile guys. He likes guys to be in one spot, but certainly he knows he's got some different packages to be able to implement different guys, whether it's the nickel or the dime packages or whatever it might be with a defensive alignment. But he knows he can do different things with different guys, and Blades is one of those guys. And again, Blades is excited to get back out there, so really excited to see how he does in fall camp. I was able to talk to a bunch of different guys, a bunch of different position groups, but one of the groups I was not able to really spend a lot of time with was the linebackers. Charlie Strong, wasn't able to talk to him, but I did spend some time with new transfer Caleb Johnson out of UCLA. He's really excited. He feels like this defense is going to be good for him, ability to kind of fit in and expect a lot out of him, but he's definitely geared up and ready to go. And and feels like his speed is going to play well in the Miami defense, and just bring in that veteran approach. And that's really my takeaway with a lot of these guys, a lot of the transfers. And I'll have a full article on a bunch of information on the transfers in particular, in addition to some other stuff. But I really paid a lot of attention to the transfers today, asking people about them, or just, you know, talking to the transfer themselves. And Caleb was one of those guys. It was the first time I was able to see him in person. I just missed him throughout the summer, you know, seeing some of the other guys, but I didn't see Caleb, so it was just great to kind of see him. I do think he has good size just from what I saw, and I think he's certainly one of those players to watch for in fall camp, but more information on him coming later. Speaking of some size of the new guys, it really stands out with what Darrell Jackson is bringing on the defensive line. Transfer from Maryland, says he's right at 6'6", about 315 pounds, and you can see it. You know, he didn't want to say everything that he's been able to do in the weight room, but definitely said he's a lot stronger now compared to a year ago, and feels like that'll certainly help him. Also, he did mention he's got a longer reach than Greg Rousseau had. That's certainly a great thing. So Darrell Jackson certainly looks the part. He's definitely a guy to watch for in terms of these transfers. So I definitely know that I'm leaving out some things. Trust me, there was a lot of content, a lot of video, a lot of interviews, talking to different people. I just want to give you guys something quick to just, you know, kind of summarize the day. So just wrapping this video up, plenty more content on the channel, I promise you, as well as InsideTheU.com. Definitely check that out. But I want to thank everybody for subscribing to the channel. If you haven't yet, please do so. We are definitely getting close to 20,000 subscribers. I would love to be able to do that by the end of this year, hopefully sooner, but the only way I can do that is if I keep grinding out videos, so I'm definitely going to keep doing that. And just want to thank, again, everybody that's already subscribed and passed the word on. So thanks again for watching. Hopefully you have a good rest of the day, and take care.